Florida 1984. The Tampa Bay area was a sun-drenched paradise hiding a dark secret. Behind the palm trees and ocean breeze, something horrifying was happening. Women were disappearing rapidly. One after another, in less than a year, at least 10 women were found dead, and over 50 more had been sexually assaulted. The community was paralyzed by fear, and the police were struggling to keep up. The man responsible was Bobby Joe Long, a sadistic predator who had turned the streets of Tampa into his personal hunting ground. But everything changed. Because of a 17-year-old girl named Lisa McVey, she was supposed to be just another victim, but instead, she became the reason he was stopped. And what makes her story even more unbelievable is that the night Lisa was taken, she had planned to take her own life. What happened over the next 26 hours would not only save her, but would end the reign of terror that had plagued Florida for months. This is the story of how one girl outsmarted a serial killer, and lived to take him down. In the spring of 1984, the people of Tampa Bay were enjoying the usual Florida life, long days, warm nights, and a laid-back rhythm that made the city feel like paradise. But by March of that year, paradise turned to panic. The body of a 20-year-old woman named Artis Wick was discovered. She had been raped, strangled, and dumped. At first, it seemed like an isolated tragedy. A random, senseless act of violence, but it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Over the next 8 months, 9 more women would be found murdered across 3 counties. Some were sex workers. Some were exotic dancers. All were vulnerable. And all were targeted. Behind the scenes, investigators started connecting the dots. The women were all found in remote areas. Most were sexually assaulted. And in many cases, fibers from a red carpet were found on their bodies. The killer had a type. He had a method. And most disturbingly, he had a growing sense of confidence. This was no longer just a homicide investigation. It was a manhunt. The police formed a task force. Surveillance was increased. Tips poured in. But the killer was always one step ahead. What they didn't know yet was that the man they were looking for had a long history of violence against women. His name was Bobby Joe Long. Born in 1953, Long had suffered a traumatic childhood, marked by abuse and humiliation. He sustained a head injury that some later linked to his violent impulses. He also had a rare genetic condition called Klinefelter syndrome, which contributed to his psychological instability. Long's criminal behavior escalated over time, from petty assaults to full-blown rape and murder. He used classified ads to lure women. If they lived alone, he'd come to their homes under the guise of buying something. But his true intentions were far more sinister. The predator had perfected his craft, but soon he would choose the wrong victim. Lisa McVey was 17 years old when she crossed paths with Bobby Joe Long. But by then, she had already lived through more pain than most people face in a lifetime. Lisa was born into chaos. Her mother was addicted to drugs and alcohol and showed little interest in caring for her. After bouncing in and out of foster care, Lisa was eventually sent to live with her grandmother. It was supposed to be a safe place. It wasn't. Her grandmother's boyfriend was a predator. For years, he molested her. He held a gun to her head. Threatened her. Controlled her. Lisa lived every day in fear. By the time she was 14, she had stopped expecting help from anyone. She kept her head down, went to school, and got a part-time job. She did what she had to do to survive, but inside, she was breaking. By late 1984, Lisa had reached her limit. She felt alone. Unloved. Worthless. She wrote a suicide note and made a plan to end her life. It was all supposed to happen the night of November 3rd. But fate had something else in store. It was late in the evening. Lisa had just finished her shift at a local donut shop. She hopped on her bicycle and began the short ride home to her grandmother's house. She didn't know she was being watched. As she pedaled through the dark, quiet streets, a red Dodge Magnum pulled up beside her. Suddenly, a man jumped out, grabbed her, and dragged her into the car. Everything happened fast, but Lisa's mind was sharper than ever. She instinctively started counting. Counting seconds. Counting turns. Counting steps, she wasn't just surviving. She was collecting data. The man tied her up. Blindfolded her. Held a gun to her head. He told her one thing: if she cooperated, she might live. If not, she was dead. Lisa believed him. The car drove for what felt like forever. She tried to remember every twist, every sound, every movement. Finally, the car stopped. He led her inside a building. She couldn't see anything. But she could smell the room. Feel the carpet. Hear the faint hum of an air conditioner. Lisa's mind was recording it all. Then the nightmare began. For the next 26 hours, Lisa was held captive by Bobby Joe Long. He raped her. Tortured her. Threatened her with death, but Lisa didn't break. She started to observe him. Not just physically, but mentally. She realized something crucial: Bobby wasn't just evil. He was emotionally stunted. Like a child in a man's body, and so, she began to play a role. She told him she understood him. That she didn't want to get him in trouble. She even said she could be his secret girlfriend. She talked about being the only child of a sick parent. About how no one would miss her. About how she wouldn't tell anyone. It was all a lie, but Bobby believed her, and in that twisted moment, Lisa saw her chance. Throughout the ordeal, she made sure to leave her fingerprints on every surface she could find. The bathroom door. A can of soda. The inside of the car. She counted how many steps it took to reach the door. Noted the hum of traffic in the distance. Tried to determine the direction of the wind. Every detail could be the key to catching him. And then, just when she thought it might be the end, Bobby made a decision. He was going to let her go. He told her he was taking her somewhere safe. He drove her to a remote location. And pulled the car over. He ordered her to get out. Before he left, he gave her one final instruction: don't take off the blindfold for 5 minutes. And then he was gone. Lisa waited exactly 5 minutes. Then she ripped off the blindfold and began the long walk home. She was barefoot. Bruised. Shaken. But alive. When she arrived at her grandmother's house, she was met not with comfort, but with cruelty. Her grandmother's boyfriend accused her of running away. He beat her. Interrogated her. Demanded answers. It took 5 hours before anyone called the police, but when they finally did, everything changed. Lisa sat down with detectives and told them everything. She described her kidnapper. His voice. His car. The smell of the room. The turns he made while driving. She even remembered that the red Dodge Magnum had a unique carpet, red, with a distinct texture. The police were stunned. They had never encountered a victim who could recall so many precise details after such trauma. And thanks to Lisa, they finally had their lead. Investigators quickly zeroed in on Bobby Joe Long. He matched the description. He had a red Dodge Magnum. He had a record of sexual assault. A surveillance operation was set up. And on November 16, just 13 days after Lisa's escape, he was arrested. The evidence was overwhelming. The red carpet fibers on Lisa matched those found on other victims. His DNA connected him to the crime scenes. In total, he was charged with the murders of 10 women, the rape of at least 50 more, and the abduction of Lisa McVey. The case went to trial. On September 23, 1985, Bobby Joe Long pleaded guilty to 8 counts of first-degree murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 7 counts of sexual battery. He received 33 life sentences. And the death penalty for 2 of the murders. Justice had been served, but Lisa's story was far from over. After the trial, Lisa turned her attention to something just as important: healing. She reported her grandmother's boyfriend for the abuse he had inflicted on her for years. He was arrested, tried, and convicted. She moved in with a kind and supportive aunt and uncle, people who genuinely cared for her, for the first time in her life. Lisa felt safe, but she wasn't done helping others. 10 years later, she got a job with the Hillsborough County Parks and Recreation Department. One night, after reporting a break-in at the office, she met a sheriff's deputy who saw something in her. He asked her, "Have you ever thought about becoming a cop?" Lisa smiled. 5 years later, in 1999, she began working as a dispatcher and reserve deputy. She trained. She studied. And in 2004, she was officially sworn in as a deputy with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. She worked in the same department that had arrested Bobby Joe Long. Her focus? Crimes against children. Sex crimes. Abuse prevention. She taught middle school students how to protect themselves. How to trust their instincts. How to survive. Lisa McVey had gone from victim to hero. In 2019, Bobby Joe Long was executed by lethal injection. Lisa was there. So was another one of his surviving victims. He made no final statement. He showed no remorse. At 7 p.m., he was pronounced dead. Lisa stood tall. She had faced her demon, and won. Her story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, to the power of resilience, and to the courage it takes to fight back, even when the odds seem impossible. She was once a forgotten girl. Abandoned, abused, and ready to give up, but when the moment came, she chose to live.